Hi everybody, this is Brian with the Nutrition News Network. I had a friend actually recommend this for me, and I'm going to do something. They said, well, is there certain things or certain nutrients or vitamins or minerals you can take too much of? Yes, there is. And that's where we're going to start with our list today of the top 10 things that you might be taking too much of, and it could be hurting you. Now, I'm not talking about vitamins and minerals as a whole. Vitamins and minerals are very important. They're essential for living. I take them all the time, but nothing substitutes a great diet. That's pretty much 75% of it, although I got to work on it post-COVID. Anyways, so we're going to go over the top 10 here, of course, that are taking too much of. Number 1, vitamin C. Vitamin C is a big one. Bioflavonoid, that's an antioxidant that lowers glucose intolerance, all these good things, relaxes the adrenals. It's needed for adrenal function, all those good things. But here's the thing, not all vitamin C is created the same. What do I mean by that? Well, number 1, if you have your vitamin C in the form of ascorbic acid, L-ascorbic acid, is in the form of crystals that is basically acidic. Now, if you have a troublesome tummy, or if you have a tummy that has IBS already, and you take more than 3 grams of that a day, let's just put it this way, you'll be spending a lot of time on a seat, and it's not your couch. So, if you are going to take more of vitamin C than 3 grams a day, you should suggest either calcium ascorbate or sodium ascorbate. Sodium ascorbate, it buffered the acid so that way your tummy can handle it. If you're going to be doing a 100-gram injection, you want to have, or 100 grams of vitamin C, do not do the vitamin C powder that's ascorbic acid, or you'll be throwing up just from the acid. Go to a naturopathic doctor that does IV injections of vitamin C for 100 grams and let them do it, so that way you're not barfing your eyes out. Number 2, this one's a surprise for a lot of people. They don't realize it. It's in hidden sources. It's called selenium. Yes, selenium is needed as a major antioxidant, also for heart function. A lot of athletes who do not have this actually collapse. Like Reggie Lewis back when he was a basketball player for the Celtics back in the early 90s, he collapsed because he did not have enough selenium. They won't say that on the cause of death, it was arrhythmia, but that's what happened. Selenium is a very important antioxidant, but not only that, you can take too much of this essential mineral. And some of the side effects, well, aren't too good. I actually knew a guy who I used to work with 10, 12 years ago. The guy was 28 years old and he looked like he was 40 because he was just bald in the center. And I'm like, this guy's got really some bad receding hair. And he's like, yeah, I don't get it. My parents, my mom, my dad, they never had hair issues. Hairs are great. Well, come to think about it, the one day I was looking at him, he was eating Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts, 3 or 4 Brazil nuts is basically 400 micrograms. Anything more than 250 micrograms a day is the higher tolerable amount. He's probably eating grams and grams, so don't eat too much of it because you'll be losing your hair out or ripping it out by itself. So number 3 is too much protein. Now, protein is needed for synthesis in your body to make muscles, to make bones. Of course, protein is important for glucose satiety. What does that mean? It means that it gives you the ability to stay full in between meals. That and fat have basically the ability to help you stay full in between meals. Well, protein, if you have too much of it, basically what happens is it creates too much what is called ammonia in the brain, which can cause irritability, can cause issues. Rule of thumb, if you're not working out to the point where you're Arnold, you only need about half of your body weight in protein in ounces. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you only really need about 70 ounces of protein at the most. Now, if you're 400 pounds or 600 pounds, then you probably need 300 pounds because your body's wasting away. The only way to get that is to, of course, either whey protein or steak and eggs. Number 5 of something you could take too much of is magnesium oxide. Now, magnesium can have a laxative effect on certain areas. Now, magnesium bound to glycine or malic acid, if it's under 1 gram a day in divided doses, shouldn't cause too much stomach upset. Now, I've seen people who take 4 or 5 grams of magnesium oxide and they are on the toilet every 15 minutes. Don't be one of those, because also too, when you're doing that as well, you're losing other minerals too, like electrolytes like potassium, sodium, and phosphorus. So it's very important when you are taking magnesium oxide, only take it for a few days if you're a little constipated. Don't take it long term, because it'll strip those other minerals. You're just wasting your money. All right. Number 7 is, of course, or number 6, excuse me, is zinc. Now, zinc, of course, everybody's been talking about COVID-19 and zinc. Zinc kills it all. Well, not so fast. Number 1, zinc is good, and it depends on the form. There's many forms. The cheapest form is, of course, zinc oxide, which is basically made from fermented bacteria and glucose. That's basically a very cheap version. If you see a bottle that says Nature Made or whatever, Walmart for $4.99 with 100 tablets at 50 milligrams a piece, this says zinc oxide or zinc gluconate, you know that's a very cheap version, and the absorbability rate's only about 4%. So you're really just throwing your money down the toilet. You're better off getting a zinc that's going to be more absorbable, and that's zinc citrate or zinc picolonate, or you could do, zinc lysate, but that goes more to your brain, which is fine too, especially if you're a previous smoker and you're leaching cadmium from cigarettes that you smoked 20 years ago. When you age, zinc lysate is good for that. But what we're looking at here is zinc in the best form. Now, too much zinc would be anything over, of course, they say over 15 milligrams. However, for men, if you're sweating and you're by weight, if you're over 250 pounds, I would say up to 100 milligrams. If you're exercising, 75 to 100 milligrams of the picolonate or zinc citrate is the best form. Now, if you are taking, if you're not active, probably like 25 is fine, 50. Females normally cut that dose in half. Now, the only time you want to take like 200 milligrams of zinc is, of course, if you're fighting a virus and it's a very acute one. So for 10 days, you take that amount. Because what happens if you take too much zinc, of course, what happens is, basically damage the kidneys. You could damage some other organs as well. You can damage, of course, your urinary tract, all those other things, because zinc is very reactive. So, and plus, too, you have a lot of gray hair if you don't take it and balance it with copper. All right, next one is going to be vitamin K. This is vitamin K. Vitamin K can cause blood clotting. Now, when you're taking vitamin K, it is always important to take vitamin K with a coagulant, natural coagulant like L-citrulline or an INOS booster or an eNOS booster, phenylene nitrous oxide booster, such as that, or of course L-arginine. Because too much vitamin K can clot the blood, and that's an issue as well. Although if you're active, to be honest with you, it's probably not a problem, but some people that've had deep vein thrombosis like me, have noticed an issue if you don't take it with the citrulline, because those things have healed in decades, but they still come back to haunt you if you have too much of it without activity and certain amino acids. Now here's another one a lot of people aren't aware of, but what really works for me, but can be dangerous if you take too much without enough protein, it's called betaine hydrochloric acid with pepsin. Now what this is basically, it breaks down, it's basically hydrochloric acid in your stomach. So as you age, the stomach acid in your body actually dwindles down. So that's what causes hypochlorhydria. No, that's not a sexually transmitted disease. But it actually, the stomach acid contents in your stomach should be a 1 to 2 pH. So that way it can churn and shine all the stuff that you've already salivated and eaten, chewed, so it can get it through your body, goes down there. Well, as you age, unfortunately, the effectiveness, especially after the age of 35, starts to wean down. That's why betaine with hydrochloric acid with pepsin has to have the pepsin part, because that's part of your pancreas. That also goes awry as well. That's why digestive enzymes are important, but in right amounts. The reason being is because betaine hydrochloride, of course, if you take too much of it without enough protein, one of my rule of thumbs is you're taking 650 milligrams of betaine HCl, hydrochloric acid. That's for every 10 grams of protein. So if you're taking 20 grams of protein, no more than 2 capsules. If you're taking 60 grams, no more than 6. That's if you're a bigger person. Now, if you're a smaller person, start small. The worst thing you can do is eat 20 grams of protein and take 8 pills as 650 milligrams. You're going to have rocket fuel shits basically all day long the next day, and it's going to be very painful. So don't do that. Now, another one, of course, I talk about too much of, and I don't mean this, the blue man from all the silver that people take. Colloidal silver is actually very beneficial for killing viruses and bacteria. I very recommend it. Usually I use a colloidal silver that is made out of course, 10 parts per million, a very low part per million. I don't make mine myself. I use usually, I think it's called Sovereign Silver, I think it is. That's who I use. Not a plug for them, but just saying. What I would tell you is that if you make your own silver, you can create the parts per million too high, and that's what causes the blue man, not the small amounts. But still, if you still take that low amount every day, it's not meant for every day. It's for acute purposes for silver. Usually if it's food poisoning or if it's, infection of some sort, I've taken a couple tablespoons and I felt better the next day. But it's not meant to be taken a long time. Not only that, it's not as bad as antibiotics as far as killing the gut flora, but over time it can kill gut flora. So silver is something you can definitely overdo. And last but not least on the list is something people don't really think of is probiotics. Probiotics are very beneficial for belly bacteria and also for the brain, because the gut-brain axis, we've been talking about that for a long time as well. But not only that, but when you're talking about the gut-brain axis, too much can cause irritation too, especially if you're used to eating crap. Now what I mean by that is if you're eating junk, what's going to happen is your body's, of course, is going to go through what is called a Herxheimer reaction. So what that means is that the Herxheimer reaction is going to cause the issues that you're going to have basically in the gut. Taking too much of it could really be an issue. Also too, when you're looking at quality control, as far as a good probiotic, always go for one that is enteric coated. If they have to be refrigerated, throw your money away. You're better off doing that or giving it to your ex-wife for alimony. So these are the 10 things that you could take too much of, but are beneficial for you in certain ways. I'm Brian Budd here with the Nutrition News Network. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. All rights reserved. Nutrition News Network. Copyright 2020.